Have you ever found yourself in a room full of people, smart, capable, and yet you're sitting there thinking, they're going to find out. They're going to find out that I don't really know what I'm talking about. And maybe you've built a really successful business, you've led teams, you've spoken on stages, but yet deep down, there's this voice that whispers, you just got lucky. That voice, that's not the truth. That's imposter syndrome. And today we're diving into that and how it shows up in your communication and how you can shift it. Let me share with you just recently, I have been exploring this really deeply for myself. I have been feeling imposter syndrome. I intentionally joined in with this mastermind of amazing women who have been in corporate and who've transitioned out and starting either they're at the beginning of their business or they've really grown or continue to grow really successful businesses. Now, a lot of these women in this mastermind are quite senior or have been quite senior in the corporate space. And I found myself as I was coming into this mastermind feeling that feeling that I used to feel in corporate when someone more senior would come into the room, that feeling of smallness, like I'm not good enough. Um, why would they listen to me? What have I got to give? What's my contribution and my value? And it was really interesting that I was feeling like this because I thought, I know that I've done a lot of work on this. It's what I help many of my clients with. And often I say, be the imposter. What does that actually mean? It's mean become the person that you want to become, right? Embody her in the full entirety, right? And the reason I joined this mastermind is because I wanted to be expanded in my thinking. I wanted to be expanded in my own leadership and in my own growth. And so to do that, I needed to be open to being expanded. It's a very different way. So I shifted the language around me feeling like an imposter and going back to the intention of why intentionally put myself in that room. I intentionally put myself in that room because I wanted to grow. I wanted to expand my own leadership, my own business, my own authority and influence. And for me to do that and be that, I need to be open to different insights, be open to different energies, be curious as to why am I feeling that what I have to bring is not good enough or is not going to be valued because I bring a whole different essence of me, a whole different level of thinking. Now, I could have done one of two things. I could have shrunk, gone into my own, ran away and avoided it, or I could sit with the discomfort of being this imposter and being curious, curious to go, where is that coming from? Because one thing I know, a lot of the times we think that the imposter comes from external. Oh, it's how they're making me feel. It's the container or the room. No, we need to look within ourselves. How and why do I feel like an imposter? And the first thing I went back to is my intention. Why did I come into this room? What did I want from this room? What did I want to bring to this room? So I became really curious of where and why this is showing up. And in addition to this, I needed to approach my own behavior and my own way of showing up as well. Not from a place of inauthenticity, but more from a place of, okay, well, if I came into this space to expand, to grow, What's the discomfort? And how do I get comfortable with the discomfort? When we can really understand the pattern of the imposter syndrome or the whole imposter phenomena, it's when high achieving individuals, what happens is they doubt their abilities and that this fear of being exposed as a fraud. And even when there's plenty of evidence that you're more than capable, I have plenty of evidence that I'm more than capable. The thing is, research shows that 75% of women leaders have experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their career. 75%, that's a massive amount of women. And the thing is, when you are transitioning out of a career of corporate or one type of identity and transitioning into entrepreneurship, totally different identity, there are going to be moments of feeling of this imposter. And I want you to know that you're not alone in feeling that. It's absolutely normal. 75% of women. Now, and if you're a woman in business or in leadership, you're likely worn this invisible weight too more than once. And it's really sneaky because it doesn't always show up like self-doubt. It can look like over-preparing. It can look like perfectionism or constantly downplaying your achievements. You want to know how it showed up for me? Perfectionism. Perfectionism. I won't speak or contribute until I've perfected how I'm going to say it, until I know deep within myself that I can add value. And you know what happens in those spaces when perfectionism takes over? That's just one aspect of how it shows up. You don't tend to speak up. You don't tend to speak up. And it's one of the biggest sabotages is your communication. How you express yourself, how you negotiate, and how you share your story, how you share your insights, your brilliance. So let's talk about how the imposter syndrome impacts your voice and your presence and you showing up. Because what I know that through my own experience recently being in this mastermind, I started seeing my voice wanting to be quiet, my level of communication wanting to step back. Luckily, based on the work that I do, I nipped this in the bud really quickly. Like I had to have real conversations with myself to go, hang on a minute. Why did you come here? That's right. You wanted to be expanded. You wanted to be uncomfortable. So that meant seeing and meeting that part of you that for me, it showed up as the imposter. But let me share with you how it may be showing up with you. You have this reluctance to speak up. You hesitate to share your opinion in meetings, in groups, on camera, because you're afraid of getting it wrong. You're afraid that it might come out silly, or you might be rambling. And what ends up happening, you hold your words back. And what happens is your brilliance stays invisible. And people don't get to experience the essence of you and what you bring. In fact, I remember contributing to this mastermind. I was asked on the spot about something. It caught me, but I'm like, you know what? I'm here to grow, to expand. And I gave myself permission. I gave myself permission to be messy, to allow it to come out. And I even framed it up that way. I said, look, I have lots of things going on at the moment, which I did. And I don't know how this will come out, but I hope it comes out clear enough of what I wanted to share and my ask. And can I tell you something? When a woman leader or business owner gives herself permission to be messy, it opens up the trust and the connection with others. That's exactly what it did. I allowed myself to be seen. I allowed myself to speak up, even in its messy. But let me show you how else imposter syndrome can show up with you in your leadership and in business. It can show up in underpricing and weak negotiation. When that inner voice says, who am I to charge that? You start to underprice your services and you start to undervalue who you are and what you bring. And that's what I call the confidence tax. It's when your self-doubt costs you money, right? The other way that it can show up is you're struggling to really own your story. You find it easier to promote others rather than promoting yourself. Now, I know when you shift from corporate into entrepreneurship, one of the hardest things that I find women is they struggle to really own that story. And so they promote and advocate for others instead of promoting themselves. And you know what ends up happening there? You sit in this spiral of doubt and you end up probably going back into the corporate space because it feels safe than to promote yourself. So when it comes to sharing your story, you feel awkward. Maybe you feel this self-indulgent, like I'm boasting. But when in truth, your story is what connects people to your purpose. And all of these are communication blocks. And they don't mean that you're not skilled. They mean your inner narrative, the language that you're saying to yourself, is running the show. And so the first thing, which is exactly what I did, is I started to recognize that. I started to be aware what my inner voice was saying to me. And maybe it says things like this: I'm not ready yet. I just got lucky. Or they're going to realize I don't really belong here. And externally, it comes across like this, your language like this: it was nothing. Sorry, just an idea. I think maybe we could. Notice that language and how it shows up externally. It's minimizing, it's apologetic, it's hesitant. I did it, but I actually owned that. I gave myself permission to be apologetic because it was how I was. Now, for many times we're saying we shouldn't do that. You know, you don't want to minimize apology, but that's who I was at that moment. But I recognized that and I owned that. This is not about blaming yourself. This is about understanding yourself. Because the first step to changing your outer voice is to begin with your inner voice. It's actually how we shift and change how we communicate to one another. Because that's where the real confidence comes from. It's not from being perfect, but from being present, connected to your truth, allowing the messy to come through. And even if you do apologize, that's okay. You're on that journey of being fully in. Like, I was still feeling the imposter, and my outward expression, my language was reflected there. But I still owned it because I did the work around it. So I want to leave with you 3 steps how to break through this imposter syndrome in your communication. And the first one is to acknowledge it and normalize it. You're not broken, you're human. Even the most successful women you admire have felt this way and still continue to feel this way. The difference is they've learnt not to let that voice run the show. They have tools, and they probably got some really great support around them to help them pick them up on it and reframe it. The next time that thought comes up that I'm not good enough, I want you to pause and say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I've got this. Now, it might feel really uncomfortable for you to do that because it's a practice. I talk about it. Building that confidence, that inner confidence, that trust muscle is a muscle that we've got to build over time, over repetition. Start writing down evidence of your wins, your compliments, your successes. This isn't ego, it's data to counter the lie of the imposter. I call it my love box because it's how I love on me, how I see myself, appreciate the growth, appreciate the fear, the struggles. Now, when I did the research on imposter syndrome, the thing that came up was about practice assertive communication. Such a masculine thing, right? But I don't think it's about assertive communication. I believe it's about having certainty and conviction in who you are and what you bring. And that can be tweaked with words. There is this label of assertive communication, but I want to say it's more confident communication. And it's about having confident language around you and how you outwardly express yourself. So, for example, I think you can replace that with I believe. The two, if we look at the two, I think means you have not fully formulated your idea. You're not in certainty. You're not in conviction with the idea. But when you say the words, I believe, you are behind what you're saying. You are standing in your truth, in your value, in your idea. They bring very different energy. The other one that I hear a lot, I say it myself, I'm really great. Can I just say, I am really great at picking up other people's languages when it doesn't feel confident and conviction and with certainty. My own, I continue to work with. I don't have someone to pick it on me. I pick it on me, right? Another one, just an idea. I'm guilty of this one. Just an idea, right? Just an idea. Kind of like, just an idea. Replace it with, here's my suggestion. Here's my take on it. Here's what I believe we should do, right? Do you see the energy behind that different language, the wording? One says, I haven't fully formulated. I'm not fully sure. I'm not really behind it. Versus, I am so confident with this. I have full conviction. I'm so behind what I'm bringing. Very different energies. The one that comes up a lot, and it's my bugbear, I see it day in, day out with women. Women do this more. Is sorry. Sorry, I didn't do it. Sorry, I didn't call you. Sorry. I want you to replace that one with silence. That one is a very uncomfortable one. It's one of the many ones that I pick with my students in my speaking circles. They would say, sorry, that didn't come. Like I want to have a sorry tax. Every time you say sorry, you got to put money in the jar, right? Sorry, not sorry. That's what, sorry, not sorry. It's a practice again. This language of confidence, conviction, certainty is a practice. We need to be aware when we're saying it and when it comes out, and then reframe it. Replacing sorry with silence is really powerful, really uncomfortable. But the more you practice this direct language, the more your nervous system learns that it's safe to be seen and heard and in conviction and owning my value of who I am and what I'm going to stand for. The third step I want to share with you is to surround yourself with mirrors, not magnifiers. Find your truth team, people who reflect back your brilliance when you forget it. Mentors, circles, coaches, communities where your voice is celebrated and not judged. I cannot tell you time and time again how I have been in spaces where people are judged or they're put down. And it's amazing how the power of a word can have an impact on another. Only in our words, we can raise someone up or put them down. That's how powerful words are. I invite you to surround yourself with mirrors, not magnifiers. Okay? Mirrors are going to celebrate you. They're going to see you for who you are. Because imposter syndrome really shrinks in spaces where your truth is witnessed, where you are fully seen and heard. Now, imposter syndrome might never disappear entirely, but it doesn't have to define how you show up. When it comes up, get curious with it. Every time you speak up, even when your voice shakes, every time you price your work in alignment with your worth, every time you tell your story not perfectly but truthfully, you reclaim that piece of your power of your voice. So if you've ever doubted yourself, know this. Your voice doesn't need permission. It just needs, let's remove just, you like that? It needs practice, presence, and belief. And that starts now. When you speak up from your truth, you stop being an imposter and you start being the change. You start being the impact. That's this week's episode. If this resonated, I'd love for you to come and join me in the Her Voice Speaking Circle. This is a safe space to practice being seen and heard and celebrated as you are, because your voice is your revolution. I have a couple of guest passes to come on in, experience the Her Voice Speaking Circle, see if it's a good fit for you. We are the mirrors to help you amplify your brilliance. Have a great day. Bye for now.